Year after year, Apple continues to put out iPhones that are incrementally better than the previous models. You also have tech reviewers who repeat the same stuff every single year. Either they're Apple fanboys who swear the current iPhone is way better than last year's, or they just believe that Apple puts out the same stuff every single year and they're scamming their customers. My take is somewhat in between this year. I'm sure that you've watched all the 15 Pro Max videos and reviews that reiterate the same things over and over. So I'm gonna try to give it my own perspective in this review. So let's get into it. The 15 Pro Max is a reliable phone that works well. It'll be more than enough for most people, although you can say those same exact words for any iPhone made in the past 4 years. So what really makes this phone different from its predecessors? Not much if we're being completely honest, but if we're looking at it from a fair perspective and weighing the phone based on what it is and not based on other models that came out before it, it's a really good phone. The brushed titanium frame is actually nice to hold and look at. It blends very well and it makes you think that the back is also titanium, but it's just glass. The phone is nice to hold without a case, but in terms of balance, it's pretty top heavy. I like the design of the 15 Pro Max and all the colors look nice too, even if they aren't the most creative or interesting choices. I think the theme for this phone can be found even in the color choices that Apple put out. They're good and safe. I really enjoy the fact that it has USB-C because it allows for a lot of USB-C accessories such as SSDs and external mics and stuff like that can enhance your workflow depending on who you are and what you need. It also just allows for faster transfer speeds if you're transferring photos and videos off of your iPhone. One thing that I've been using the USB-C port for is video editing off of an SSD mounted onto the phone. That has been a pretty good experience for me. But alright, let's get into the software now. So this is a slightly controversial take, but iOS to me is a pretty underwhelming software. It's smooth just like the edges of the phone, but so limited if you're someone who uses your phone for more than just calling, texting, and scrolling social media. This is not about power or app optimization. It's about genuine features that add to your experience and enhance your workflow. Even my friend who is a diehard Apple fan agrees that Apple should and could do so much more with their iPhone software. Customization is also very limited, even though it's slowly getting better. The settings app and the way you get to specific app settings is pretty primitive. On most other phones, I can tap and hold on that app and go straight to that app's specific settings. And I also prefer other layouts for settings apps because to me in those other settings apps, it feels more organized and properly sectioned. Notifications aren't as bad as people make it seem, but I still prefer Samsung's way of handling notifications and all the customization options that come with that. Overall, I can make a big list about nitpicks, about iOS and the things it does and the things that it's missing, but I'll close this point with this. For a phone that is very camera-centric and claims to be a pro device, the lack of a manual camera mode for photography and videography is pretty confusing to me. Alright, so far I've been talking about things I don't like about the software, so I'm going to talk about some things that I actually enjoy about iOS in my time with the 15 Pro Max. The first thing is the dynamic island. In my opinion, it looks cooler than a selfie camera cutout, and the way that it fuses hardware with software is pretty sick. It gives some real multitasking features to a device that heavily lacks in that area. Setting timers and seeing a live update of those timers, media visualization and controls, sports live updates, and other similarly useful capabilities with compatible apps. I love the dynamic island, and I wish it was more integrated into iOS and used by every app. Another wish would be all notifications coming through the dynamic island. That would also be nice. And then there's the always on display. Always on display on iPhone is my favorite of any smartphone. Combined with the clean aesthetic, you get live updates and full notifications even while the phone screen isn't fully on. These two things make it a very useful always on display. I like the wide variety of widgets that you can also use as well. Samsung devices can use any widget, but not when you have the wallpaper as your always on display on the S24 Ultra. If you have your wallpaper as your always on display, then you only have a small pool of widgets. So the iPhone 15 Pro Max, in my opinion, has the best always on display in the game right now, if you ask me. And then another thing I like about iOS is the animations and the small details. Those are very enjoyable, and I know that Apple has been doing a really good job in this so far anyways, but I just want to highlight that it's something that I enjoy. Sometimes I just find myself picking up an iPhone and scrolling through the OS and doing random things because it's pleasing to see nice animations. Another thing that I like about iOS, and I think it's pretty underrated, is widget stacking. In my opinion, widget stacking is a genius idea, and I'm happy that Samsung also adopted this. Being able to have multiple widgets take up one space on your home screen and smartly rotate them between the stacked widgets is super tough to me. I just wish the home screen layouts and editing wasn't so limited. I wish that you can place apps and widgets wherever you want and that you had the option to turn off the way that it snaps back into place. I also appreciate the simplicity of the software, even if it isn't my preference. iOS makes iPhones easy to recommend for a lot of people. In terms of performance, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is supposed to be the most powerful smartphone out. However, in my experience, other smartphones outperform it in certain areas and in certain games. One example is Pokemon Unite. Pokemon Unite is not the most difficult game to run, and I feel like a lot of devices can run it pretty well, even older Androids and iPhones. But for some reason, on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, it can't even stay at 60 FPS. The whole game, it just dips and it has stutters, and it's not a smooth experience compared to other devices for some reason. It's most likely an app optimization thing, but the phone has been out for so long, so it's kind of strange that the most powerful phone and the most efficient phone on the market has these issues. Another area where the iPhone didn't perform as well as I thought it would, or at least better than the competition, is in video exporting. In terms of like video editing, it's probably the smoothest experience I've had on iOS and iPadOS, but when it comes to exporting, for some reason it's really slow compared to other phones and even other iPads. I ran a few tests and the S24 Ultra exported significantly faster than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. This is not really an issue, but it's kind of interesting to see when, like I said, it's supposed to be the most powerful smartphone. And then outside of like raw performance and pushing the phone to its limit, in my day-to-day usage, I've had the phone overheat a couple times. There were a couple times in normal usage where the phone would just get randomly hot. And then also with wireless charging, it's almost guaranteed that this phone is going to heat up. And usually when it heats up during wireless charging, I get the message saying that it's too hot and then it has to stop charging. It's just strange and interesting because with the 2nm chip, it shouldn't have all these heat issues. But for some reason, it generates a lot of heat and it struggles with overheating. It definitely got better since the phone launched, but it's still not perfect and I still experience overheating on my wireless chargers. Battery life is basically the best you can get on any Pro smartphone. It lasts me all day and I can probably use it for up to a day and a half depending on what I'm doing. If I'm video editing and doing heavier tasks like playing games and stuff like that, then I could definitely kill this phone by the next morning. But yeah, overall the battery life is amazing on this phone. Alright, so now let's talk about the cameras. So these cameras are definitely among the best when it comes to smartphone cameras. The 15 Pro Max is a reliable point-and-shoot camera. It doesn't require too much effort to take usable photos compared to other smartphones on the market. These cameras are capable of taking great images and video quality is top tier, but I wish I had manual controls. There are some instances where I don't like what the automatic mode and the computational photography software does to the photos and the videos. Like for example, in mid-level lighting, this phone tends to produce softer images with a weird fuzzy halo effect around human subjects and skin tones. This happens in video and also photos. The cameras are definitely a big focus when it comes to iPhones, but I can't say that I was super excited to use them after getting this phone. However, even with that being said, I knew that I could always depend on this phone to get a good shot whenever I needed it to. So here's my conclusion. This phone is definitely an amazing device. I can't say that it does enough to justify the Pro title, but it is a solid device that will give you the best basic experience out there with the best battery life. Am I hating on it or am I making sense? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you disagree or agree, and yeah, have a good day. We out. Peace.